Hi everyone, I'm Paul, and this is tip 3 in my speech quality course, Communicate with Intonation. So, what is intonation? It's changes in speech pitch. It's kind of like notes in music. We can have a high pitch or a low pitch. Let me hum a high pitch for you. Mm. Let me hum a low pitch. Mm. Sorry, I'm not very musical. In English, 3 types of intonation change we can have are the rise, which we're going to use with this bar, this arrow going up in today's tip, and the fall, which we're going to show with this arrow going down, and the partial fall, which we're going to show with this arrow going slightly down. Let me hum each one for you to give you an idea. Here's the rise. Mm-hmm. Here's the fall. Here's the partial fall. So you might, sometimes speakers might have a partial rise here instead of a partial fall. That's fine as well, but it's important that the partial fall sound goes between the rise and the fall. Let's talk about intonation and meaning and pizza. So here's the same sentence about pizza, but it's got 4 different types of intonation. I want you to listen to each of the 4 sentences, and I want you to think about how the intonation in this sentence changes the meaning of it. Okay? So let's read number 1. This one has falling intonation at the end. You don't like pizza. 2 has rising intonation at the end. You don't like pizza? 3 has rising intonation on you and pizza. You don't like pizza? And 4 has partial falling intonation on pizza. You don't like pizza? How do you think the meaning changes with the intonation? Well, number 1, we feel that the speaker is sure about the information. They're confident that it's true. Number 2, we feel that the speaker is not sure about the information, so they're checking if it's true. Because maybe they think that, everybody loves pizza, so they're checking if the speaker doesn't like pizza. Excuse me. Number 3, the speaker is also checking, but the focus is on you. They're checking because maybe they're surprised that this particular person doesn't like pizza. Maybe they're from Italy or something. And number 4, we feel that the speaker hasn't finished talking. We feel that the speaker is going to say some more in this case. So let's talk a little bit more about intonation and meaning, and some common meanings that intonations can give us. So rising intonation often tells us that the speaker is surprised about something, surprised about what they're saying, or they're unsure or checking the information. The fall often tells us that the speaker is sure about the information, or they're confident in it. It can also tell us that the speaker is finished speaking about that idea. The partial fall can tell us that the speaker is not finished talking about that idea and there is more information to follow. In other words, they want to keep talking about that idea. Now, these are just some of the meanings that these intonation patterns can give. There are also, of course, some exceptions. For example, with WH questions usually have falling intonation at the end, but they are requesting information. So they actually have falling intonation, not rising intonation. Let's talk about 4 intonation patterns that can help language learners. The first is that we can use rising intonation on WH question words to ask for repetition. For example, where are you going? In this case, we're asking the person to repeat what they said, maybe because we're surprised about what it was or that we just didn't hear it. Rising intonation can also make requests more polite or indirect. For example, can you spell that? You couldn't turn down the music, could you? Partially falling intonation can be used to continue lists. For example, we'll order some pizza, chicken, fries, and salad. So this here it's showing that the list is going to continue, and it's going to continue here. And then finally, the falling intonation at the end tells the listener that the list is finished. The partial fall can also tell the listener that the speaker wants to continue talking about the same idea. For example, I'm not sure what to do. I could text her or I could call her. Let me read that one again. I'm not sure what to do. I could text her or I could call her. The partial fall here is telling us that there's more information coming about that idea, and this partial fall tells us there's still more, and the fall at the end tells us that idea is finished, and the speaker's either going to move to a new idea, or maybe the listener will have a chance to speak. So what are the key points for today's tip on intonation? So intonation can communicate meaning. It can tell us different things. It can tell different things to the listener. For example, it can tell the listener how confident or sure the speaker is about their information. It can also tell the listener that the speaker wants to continue talking about a point, or that the speaker has finished talking about a point or idea. Intonation, it can be difficult for language learners, especially in speaking. So the best thing to do is to start with listening. Try to listen to different types of natural intonation in speech. Try and notice how it varies and how it can change the meaning. Once you're more confident with listening to different types of intonation, then move on to trying to include it in your speech. Intonation is also an important part of vocal variety in speech. Now, vocal variety works to keep the listener interested and engaged in what you're saying. It's also, so it becomes a much more important part in presenting. We'll talk more about this vocal variety in when we talk about thought groups in tip 5. So let me give you something to practice at home. Try and replay this tip video and try repeating some of the example sentences I gave. Focus on copying the different types of intonation changes I used. Then try some self-monitoring. So record yourself saying the sentences and play them back. Check your intonation. Could you make a rising intonation? Could you make a partial fall? Could you make a fall? Okay, so next week, we're going to talk about some similar sounds that learners often have problems with, and how mistaking them can actually cause miscommunications and also sometimes embarrassing situations. For more tips on language learning and teaching, visit my website at paulmaka.com. On this website, you can also find information on online Zoom courses I will be starting on Sundays from this April. See you next week.